One of our churches used to meet in the chapel of a graveyard. The pastor there would sometimes before the services practice his sermon whilst walking around the gravestones, I guess quite literally preaching to the dead. But he commented that there was nothing quite like having such an ever-present reminder of death for his congregation, particularly to sharpen their commitment to the Great Commission. 1 Peter 1:24 reminds us that all flesh is like grass, and all its glory like the flower of grass. The grass withers, and the flower falls. Well, we know that, don't we? And we see it all too well in our Free State winters. It's all around us, this withering. But that's not the only reminder of our passing temporal reality of our lives right now, is it? You know, we try hard to hide from the reality of death, but that's not so easy in the worldwide pandemic time such as this. And what a time for us as believers to make the most of every conversational opportunity, that people might hear the good news. And understanding life and death as we do, it ought to make us the most compassionate people in the world as we minister in pain and brokenness and heartache and hopelessness, and the most urgent as we carry the only life-saving message. So welcome to COVIDSATIONS, a series of short bite-sized videos and testimonies to help us make the most of our daily, excuse the pun, viral conversations with our non-Christian friends and family. So join us as we unpack the ABCs of evangelism over the coming weeks from Peter's first letter. And so we start at the very beginning with A. The explorer missionary to Africa, David Livingstone's epitaph read, "Here lies living stone." He understood the truth about his death, as all of us believers should. That life is much more than the little dash between our date of birth and our date of death. Have a listen again to Peter as to why he describes flesh like grass. Having purified your souls by your obedience to the truth for a sincere brotherly love, love one another earnestly from a pure heart, since you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and abiding word of God. For all flesh is like grass, and its glory like the flower of the grass. But the word of the Lord remains forever. You and I will live forever, because the eternal God has planted the everlasting seed of his gospel word in your heart and has caused you to be born again to new life with him forever. And all that has happened according to his great mercy. Chapter 1 verse 3. The teacher asked the Sunday school class, "What do you have to be to go to heaven?" Finally, one little voice piped up, "Dead?" Indeed, but you especially need to be alive. Once dead in sin, hearts made alive, and alive forevermore, because he is. He beat death. Now, keeping this eternal perspective doesn't make us complacent in the present. Rather, it spurs us into sober, grateful, bold, and sacrificial action. Peter shows us it gives us courage to persevere through all kinds of momentary, painful trials and struggles. It spurs our new hearts on to pour themselves out in love like we've never loved before. It causes us to open our mouths and boldly give a reason for the hope that lies within us. But if we're honest, how many of us live consistently this way? We're often quick to claim eternity, but then we live as if this life is all there is. In spite of being recipients of such mercy, I find myself all too often whining, weak and wavering. whining about the difficult circumstances of my life, making weak excuses for my lack of compassion and love, and wavering in my conversational opportunities to speak of Him. We need to recapture our sight of the finish line. But that is not done merely by thinking more about heaven and hell. It's done by thinking more of Him. You see, what is our ultimate inheritance if it is not Him? In the end, the reward, the joy of heaven, is being with Jesus. The greatest gift of God to us is Himself. And why does that matter so much as we consider being equipped for evangelism? Well, friends, no amount of how-tos and books and videos and tips, good and biblical as they may be, will make an inch of a difference if we do not, as Spurgeon urges us, plunge ourselves in the Godhead's deepest sea and be lost in His immensity. A is for alive, and A is for awe. To live alive in awe. What kind of God is this? What kind of love is this? That He would leave His glorious throne to lift a poor hell-bound beggar like me to His side. You see, the more precious Jesus is to you, the more precious you will want Him to be to others. Precious in these words, behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone chosen and precious, and whoever believes in Him will not be put to shame. Only those filled with Him and His preciousness will overflow with Him. Maybe you need to get right back to the ABCs and spend time with Him. Do whatever you can to be with Him in His word and prayer, and bask in His glory daily, that others can't help but notice one who is truly alive amidst a world of death.